Hello everyone, this is Suneve and I'm coming to you with Cruelest of Hearts, an Eyeless Jack X Reader by Vivian R. Vergil. We're going to be starting with chapter 17. I translated it, it's French, and it says, "You are not alone." The song going with this episode today is Hollywood Undead. I'll be there. Kill me, EJ. The girl had been unconscious for quite some time now. Her fragile little mortal body was unable to sustain her conscience for too long, and it was making her drift in and out of sleep, desperately attempting to restore her vitality and fight the severe hypothermia from which she was suffering from. Her body trying to absorb as much heat as possible, but it was purely out of her own stupidity that she was suffering in the first place. Who told her it was a good idea to attempt an escape and run away in below zero temperatures? And it came as no surprise at all that she had fallen inside the pond, only increasing her chances of death. But no. EJ was not going to allow that. He would tell her when her time to die has come, and he would be glad to kill her himself, something that after the little conversation the both of them had appeared to be desired by the girl as well. She really wanted to die by his hand, and that was peculiar. Never in his undead life did AJ encounter a human that was actually ready to die, and even begged for it. And yes, he had obtained a few living humans over the years in secret from the rest of the household, and whom he carried on his experiments to help him hunt down their kind more easily. And despite the fact that many of them had lived long enough to have their will broken, not even one of them ever begged him for death. The vast majority had simply stopped fighting after a while, losing the will to live, but never coming to a point of begging for death. This went for all humans in general, as he had realized that they never let go of their will to live, and the small chance that maybe, just maybe, luck will favor them and they might be able to escape at some point. Because just like what he had read in books, humans always have the will to survive, even in the most devastating of situations. But not this girl. This girl puzzled him beyond anything else. Yes, he had seen the fire burning inside her eyes, a flame that was burning fiercely and only made him want to try whatever was possible to quench it. Yes, she had tried again and again to escape, even if she knew for herself that he would come after her and the consequences would be devastating for her. Yes, he had taken in all of her fear, savoring it as a fine-tasted kidney or heart, when he told her that he would cut off her legs in order for her to be completely stopped from running away, but nothing ever did quench the fire out of her eyes like when she begged him to kill her. It was a strange moment for the Eyeless killer as well. As her eyes filled with tears that were quick to cascade down her face, the same moment that sobs reverberated from the depths of her chest was a time that what he couldn't achieve by threatening or beating her happened. The fire went out inside her eyes. The flames that always seemed to burn drowned themselves inside the tears, completely quenching and leaving behind an empty shell that could do nothing more than cry and beg for the sweet salvation of death. Was the fire just a distraction from what she seemed to be hiding inside her mind? Maybe it was, since what else could explain the 180 turn she took, completely revealing herself to him by dropping all of her resistances. And the girl simply cried away. EJ found himself unable to kill her for the second time since he took her in here. It wasn't something in her tears or her desperate face. These are things that EJ found utterly disgusting in humans in general. No, it was her words. Probably. Maybe. He wasn't sure about it himself. "I know that you must be lonely too, living all alone in here," he repeated in his mind. Loneliness. This was the single word that was strong enough to pretty much evaporate all the anger that was fueling him. Not because of any other reason other than the curiosity over the fact that she chose the particular word to say, for reasons that he was unable to comprehend, no matter how much his analytical mind tried, leaving him to literally struggle to understand. And even if that wasn't enough, she dared to utter it and then passed out, before he had the chance to question her. Since the surprise that washed over the Eyeless killer was an emotion that he hadn't felt in a while, it managed to puzzle him even more. And now he must wait to ask her. This was preposterous, but even if he was in desperate need for answers, his calm nature eventually won over. Did it, or did it make him completely unable to react, trapping him inside his very own body to think these things through over and over again? Thus, he did just that. He allowed himself to be so completely engulfed that he froze on spot, with his hands hovering over the girl's legs, with a scalpel and a needle in each hand. Why just a word from this girl had such an impact on him? And what was that loneliness she was talking about? He wasn't lonely. He wasn't lonely at all. Being inside this household was a certain proof about that. When Slenderman had found him wandering around aimlessly inside the dark woods of Slenderman's territory, and with his mind completely devoured by the darkness, he offered him not only a certain place to stay, but also the knowledge that he wasn't alone inside the darkness, that there were others just like him, who went after the human race just like he did. And suddenly, EJ had found a purpose. Had found the will to live and a reason for his existence. He was brought inside the house of killers and had a certain amount of companionship. This did not mean he didn't continue to be the bloodthirsty beast that his nature had bestowed him with, and being around other merciless beasts was a sure proof of that. So why did her words affect him so much? What was different with her? Why was he more like himself when he was around her? Why did the madness withdraw, and just who was this girl? Sighing, he threw the medical tools to the side. He couldn't kill her. Not yet, not now, not until he had an answer for each of the questions inside his mind. It was purely frustrating being unable to kill her, and if he was sure that when she would wake up, she would be able to provide him with answers, he would kill her afterwards, but he doubted that she would be the key to his answers. Not only that, but he found himself not wanting to kill her. He wanted to keep her around a little longer, just enough to find out what was the strange feeling of relaxation when he was around her, no matter how much she infuriated him. She undoubtedly had the rare gift of both relaxing and angering him, something that no other had ever managed, but he couldn't dispose of her now. He clenched his jaw firmly. Keeping her it is, then, even if she wants to or not. Grabbing a clean pair of bandages from somewhere beside him, he turned to her legs and started wrapping them fast and with exceptional care. He had found her right when she was about to die from the cold and managed to revive her up to some point, yet her legs were suffering from an almost severe frostbite. The skin had completely turned black, a shade that if it got any darker, could go up against his own, from the knees and downwards. In his tries to restore her, he had applied warm water on the wounds, and looking at them now, they seemed to turn more bluish and red around the edges. Sure signs that the circulation was coming back yet, and they would take a little while to return to their normal state. So separating her toes with a bit of cotton, he wrapped the legs carefully before covering them with a blanket. Other than that, he only had to make sure that she would stay warm and not step on her feet, something that was easier said than done. And looking around him, he realized that the lab was probably not the warmest place for her to be, and for now, he would have to move her to his room to monitor her 24/7. And what a pain this girl was. Moving the medical tables, he opens the door of the lab, gazing briefly around his room. He had stuffed a spare mattress in the small walk-in closet next to one of the bookshelves, so if he placed it under the window, she would be able to be warmed by the radiator under it and get some vitamin D in her system from the sun. He wouldn't have to worry too much about someone coming in and seeing her, since no one ever came in here, with the only exception being when they needed treatment. She was safe from being discovered for the time being. Plus, if he placed her there, then it would be easier for him to check up on her the moment he would wake up. Not that she would be able to walk out the door, and he had made sure to nail the window shut just in case. And so, the Eyeless killer got down on business, cleaning his room up from stuff he was too occupied to place in the right places the moment he had returned from the hunt. He took out the mattress in the closet, placing it under the window and throwing a spare pillow mindlessly on it. He walked back into the lab, picked the girl up along with the many blankets he used to keep her warm, and returned to place her down on the mattress. All that took him a good amount of time, so by the time he made sure to enclose her wrist within a handcuff that he had connected to the radiator with a chain, the sun was already making his first appearance on the horizon, lightening the edges of the trees with his majestic light. Now the only thing that was left is to find something for her to eat, since by restoring her strength, the process of healing would be accelerated. When he would go out for hunting tonight, he would make sure to stuff his pockets with some provisions in the victims' houses, but for now, the only way for him to find some was to go down in the kitchen. And luckily for him, the whole creepypasta household was silent, and the very few killers that resided in there weren't asleep, had returned from their killing sprees, enabling EJ to stalk his way inside the kitchen and grab some food for the girl without any unnecessary questions that he would be unable to answer. How on earth was he going to explain the sudden craving for human food, since his own nutrition consisted of human organs? So, safely returning to his room, he had just enough time to rest the provisions in a place where she wouldn't see them right away, and sit on the floor right next to her before her eyes flickered uneasily and eventually opened. The first thing EJ noticed, right as the brown orbs of the girl opened, was that no longer did the fire burn inside of them. He thought that after her outburst, the light would have been restored even as a smaller flame than before. So watching her look around soullessly was something that he would never have expected. It was unnerving, and that was something coming from a killer. He had seen that happen numerous times in the past, but never did it affect him that much. Her eyes scanned the ceiling for a bit, a small spark of curiosity passing briefly until she moved her head and her stare fell on the eyeless man. Again, he could read nothing of her true thoughts that were too concealed this time. "Is this your room?" she whispered, her voice seemingly coming from beyond the grave. EJ just hoped that the medicine hadn't affected her singing abilities, and for his own sake, not for hers. It would be a waste to lose his drug. "Yes," he simply responded, watching her closely under his mask. She swallowed hard before licking her lips a bit, to be able to speak more easily. "What the hell am I doing here?" EJ's voice sounded monotone, even to him. "I moved you here since the lab was too cold for your hypothermic episode." She blinked once again and her gaze darkened. "I didn't mean that." "How are you feeling? Do you have any pain anywhere?" EJ changed the subject skillfully. He wanted to avoid the question that he had been unable to answer in the first place. "Like $1,000,000, girl." She barked out with her voice dripping from irony and tried to move, flinching as her limbs must surely be hurting her like hell. EJ rushed to help her stand up, listening to her heartbeat that became suddenly unsteady by the movement and not wanting her to die on the spot from a heart attack that this time he would be unable to do to her deteriorated state to reverse. He helped her stand up and lay back on the radiator. When he retreated again, she was watching him closely with her eyes narrowing. What do you think, bastard? I'm in terrible pain and my legs are burning me. You cut them off, didn't you? He tilted his head to the side and watched her silently for a moment, with a huge sadistic grin forming on his lips hidden from her sight. Address me like that one more time and I will put you into the test of how much sulfuric acid hurts when it enters the bloodstream. Now terror clearly flashed from her empty eyes, altering her face into a terrified one, something that pleased the killer way more than he would like to admit. Maybe that would teach her some respect in how to talk when the odds are against her, that little insolent woman. Your state is so deteriorated that everything will hurt you for the next few days, until the reparation of the damage is on a sufficient level and the hypothermia is cured completely, EJ informed her. Your legs were heavily frostbitten but required no amputation, so they are going to hurt like living hell for the next week or so. I would advise you not to step on them at all, yet I know that my advice has never reached your long-ago stopped brain. In his words, her jaw clenched firmly. So you didn't cut them off as a punishment? He nodded. No. Well, she gave him a forced smile. My brain must be the one that has stopped, but you are the bipolar one in here. Other than beating me up once, you never dared anything else. I can always throw you out of the room where you will meet something far worse than death or open you up and take your organs. Don't test me, YN. Your attitude has already pushed my limits to the extreme. The threat was so serious that it was almost tangible, yet the girl only scoffed. Yet, here I am yet again. Your threats don't scare me anymore, EJ. I told you yesterday I want to die. I want to die so much that it pains me way more than the frostbite. And if you want to kill me, and even if I begged you, here I am. Maybe I should step outside of this room and let whoever is out there to take care of it for me, she replied evenly, her voice so cold that the whole room seemed to drop a few degrees. She was also pretty serious about it. EJ thought about it for a few minutes, allowing the silence to fall among them as he studied the girl from behind his mask. The emotionless facade was still there, and it seemed to grow darker and darker with each passing second. As she must surely have noticed his hesitation. I mean, yes, if she was anybody else, she would already be dead, but she wasn't. Letting out an inaudible sigh under his mask, EJ turned and grabbed the food he had hidden, placing it inside the girl's resting hands. The moment she saw them, her eyes widened. What are these? 2 slices of bread, a slice of cheese, and some water. Pretty much what you can stomach after so many days without food. You should eat to replenish your strength and help your wounds heal. I'm not eating those unless you give me some answers, she said. Why am I not surprised at all? He sighed, this time audibly. Eat, and I will explain the situation. She swallowed hard, that you could tell by the movement of her neck, even if it didn't have eyes. It was only normal that she would be famished, since he had only given her another slice of bread 4 days or even a week ago. Other than that, she had been receiving all the necessary nutrition through a serum, which did keep her alive, but led to a huge loss of weight, making her practically so petite that Clockwork's clothes seemed all too big for her. Keeping her gaze nailed on him, he brought the bread and cheese close to her nose, sniffed once, and took a small bite, as if she was afraid that they were poisoned. It wasn't that EJ hadn't thought of that, as he smiled a sly smirk under the mask, but she could do him no good if she was dead. Then she started eating away, waiting patiently for him nonetheless. He knew that if he didn't give her any answers, she would stop, even if that led to her to drool over the food, an annoying human habit that he also had. Strange as it may seem to your incompetent mind, I have failed to analyze you to the full extent that I would wish, he admitted. I have given your request for death a lot of consideration nonetheless, but since you have far exceeded my previous specimens, I have no will to grant you your wish for now, until I have all the data that I need. You seem more interesting than I thought at first, so I decided to keep you. So you're not going to kill me, right? She pointed out the obvious, even if she had understood him completely. You are far too valuable at the moment. This is why I chose not to cut your legs off as punishment as well. I want you to be able to react and run if times call for it. Of course, I will keep your presence hidden from any potential threat. Either that is your own self or the other residents of this house. I need you to be in the best of shape in order for me to conduct my experiments, he admitted evenly. Your own guinea pig, she breathed out. Exactly, he said. No death for me, then, she choked out, and from the unexpected sound, EJ gazed towards her, noticing large tears cascading down her face. She was eating her last bites and crying all at the same time, yet her face was calm and collected, leaving nothing to be shown towards the outside world other than her tears. I can't kill you, he admitted, and partially it was true, no matter how much the kidney-eating killer denied it. Why? She demanded to know. I told you were too valuable. Bam. Everything happened within a split second. There were only a few times in his undead life that EJ was so taken aback by something that his killer or animalistic instincts failed to take it in at this point, and this was one of them. Everything seemed to be okay. He was explaining to YN the reasons why he couldn't kill her, and she was eating her last bites, but one moment she was sitting right in front of him, and the next moment she wasn't. Surprised it even had the chance to occur to the eyeless killer's deranged mind, his 2 hands wrapped around his neck, and something came in hard contact with his own body, throwing him against the floor, with the head of the monstrous man hitting it mercilessly and producing a cracking sound that earned a surprised exclamation from his part. The demon that was resting inside the darkness of his mind awakened and growled loudly, making his empty socket search for the attacker immediately, letting out a hellish growl. Only that it wasn't some random enemy that decided to attack him. Oh no, it was YN. Without the killer knowing how, the small girl had pulled all the energy that was left inside of her, collecting it and unleashing it like a whip, as she catapulted herself against him, wrapping her fragile hands around his neck and pinning him to the ground. Not because of her sheer strength that was obviously no match to the supernatural killer, but by using the element of surprise to her advantage. Now she was sitting on his chest, her hands tightening around his neck, and apparently he had to shorten the chain of the handcuff. It was so easy for her to reach him. And with her eyes flashing with pure rage like a lighthouse on a stormy night, the anger was coming and going from her otherwise empty eyes like it was flickering inside her very soul. "You are a good-for-nothing killer," she hissed, her voice filled with hatred. "I have found myself the only killer that is unable to kill me. What a pathetic excuse of a killer. Why can't you kill me, huh? Why can't you do the only thing you are good at? Kill me, you fucking do it already," she screamed at his face. And that was it. Grabbing her wrist, he turned his body to the side in a flash and threw her to the floor beside him before towering well above her, pinning her fragile hands to each side of her head and trapping her down by using his own body. If he applied a bit more strength, her wrist would surely shatter under his immense strength. But for the sake of keeping her alive, he restrained and took control over his anger, before it allowed him to rip her head off. When he spoke, he knew that the one talking was the demon and not his own self. "I am going to kill you when I fucking want to. Do you understand me, you pathetic woman? All I ask of you is 1 month, 1 single month of staying with me, without trying to escape and without death wishes, to help me understand why you are so different from all the other humans I have took. Then I will happily grant you your wish and kill you once and for all, but for that 1 month I refuse to kill you so that you can keep me some company. I will keep you around. Is your brain able to understand that?" As the man was speaking, he could see all kinds of emotions passing from the girl's eyes, mostly consisting of anger and disgust, something that only made him smile slyly. Yet as he finished his sentence, hate was replaced by surprise, and eventually she smiled, a mocking smile. At first he didn't understand why, and that puzzled him, but as realization dawned on him, he had the strong urge to kick himself. Why had he told her that he wanted company? What the absolute hell did that mean? "So killers feel lonely as well, huh?" She mocked him, but eventually sighed. "Fine. 1 month. You have yourself a deal, EJ." That is the end of that chapter. The chapter after that one is chapter 18, The Art of Coexisting. Let me know how you guys felt about that, and I will see you guys in the next episode. And until next time, bye-bye.